So previously, in our last session, we got to see Enna Scorch and Renny Applewick enjoy their first morning in Summerbend, grabbing a quick breakfast before setting out to Mother Baba's where they would reconnect with Cleanser Armit, where they would proceed to accompany the Cleanser out of the city proper, leading to our party of three securing land mounts in the form of 20-foot-long riding lizards. After getting comfortable, they would set out into the vast, dense forest that is the Gold Reach. Over their travel, we would get to watch Renny and Enna gradually get more and more comfortable in the saddle of these large lizards, but loosely about halfway into their trek, again passing through these dense woods, the party would be ambushed by a clutch of 6 clawfoots. These velociraptors attacking the party and their riding lizards in vicious form. Though thankfully, with the combined efforts of Enna and Renny, our heroes would prove victorious, defending their mounts all while riding at rapid speeds through the forest. But even though they won the fight, they would not escape unharmed, seeing all 3 of the lizards and their riders sporting various wounds from the clawfoot's assault. Our scene ending with the party riding off into the dense forest that is the Gold Reach. Our session today, picking up loosely about an hour after the clawfoot ambush, seeing the wounded lizards finally beginning to slow down their quick movement. The trio of reptiles coming to rest in a slight opening here in the thick forest, this open patch they would come to rest on. The riding lizards slowly coming to a halt. Armit quickly dismounting from his. Still sort of holding onto his own wounds, he would pat onto the large reptile as it lays down its belly against that forest floor. A little bit of a huff and exhale as the riding lizard sloughs down. You did good, Sunbeam. No, you did amazing. Truly, you've earned a breather before we carry on. You would see Armit probably look back at the two of you. This place looks good enough as any. I think we rode long enough and hard enough that hopefully we're out of their hunting grounds. Though just heads on a swivel. We can't waste too much time here.
Understood. You guys took the most damage. I'll walk around, make sure everything's good.
Just automatically, I guess I'll just use some of my healer's kit bits and just patch up these little riding lizards.
Ooh, I love it. Give me a medicine check with advantage. As soon as you pull out your healer's kit and kind of start rummaging through it, Cleanser Armit would immediately come over and begin to help you with that. Thankfully, he's probably a little bit more knowledgeable on some of the ointments and other smaller random bits inside your healer's kit.
18. Try to just patch him up a little bit.
Quick work, especially with the work of Armit. Not too strenuous, thankfully, being able to do this during our mechanical short rest. Titting to each lizard, you would use 3 charges of your healer's kit. Mm-hmm. And each one will heal for... Roll me... let's just do 2d6. Roll me 2d6.
Okay, 3 is back-to-back, so 6.
6. Over the course of this hour, the riding lizards would regain a little bit of their stamina. You would see some of their wounds not quite as bloody and bad, and thanks to the healing, they would mend just a little bit more than normal. Probably after healing some of these riding lizards, probably on that last one, maybe you do Dapple last, the sort of bigger, larger of all the lizards, the one being that Enna rode in on. Cleanser Armit would probably look to you, Renny, and probably over to Enna, and she's maybe on a very loose perimeter around this opening where you guys are rested in.
Mm-hmm.
You both did an amazing job as well. I wish I could have been more effective during the fray, but thanks to the both of you and our faithful riding lizards, we somehow survived that.
Oh, you're being too generous. I mean, you did a great job, and honestly, I was worried about you. I was feeling like we were letting you down a bit. So, yeah, I'm glad we made it through just fine.
Yes, it's nice to have a healer in the party.
Something I did not quite anticipate my role being, though it is apt for my skill set. Honestly, I've never heard of such a large pack of clawfoots before. From what I recall, they often hunt in packs of 3 to 4. I mean, a typical herd, an entire pack itself, consists of maybe 20 or so a hunting party of 6 is odd, to say the least.
Does that mean that there's a large pack around? She's like extra looking, squinting into the jungle.
Well, we did at least kill 6, so hopefully they don't show up. How close are we to the well? Didn't you say there's some strange things happening around it? Could that be related?
We're still about 3.5 hours outside of the Peach Leaf community. I suppose that is a good segue, though, Renny. Perhaps the two of you do deserve a little bit more info on what we may exactly be getting into when we show up here.
Any kind of heads up would be great.
From my loose gatherings, the Peach Leaf community, by my estimation, maybe some 3 weeks ago, they started having troubles with their well. I'm not exactly sure about the first events. Most of the information I have is secondhand, hot off the word of travelers and word of mouth that has spread across Nosfid, and those that may mention the Gold Reach and the small river villages that nestle along the water's edge. But I digress. They were having strange occurrences at their well. It's hard to exactly describe. A lot of the sightings, stories rather, would detail the well being upset when water is drawn. A strange occurrence, to say the least. I'm not exactly sure what we may fully be diving into, but one thing I do think it important to impart is that when we arrive, I will not be officially addressing myself as a cleanser. I hope to assume the guise of a dredger, much like the pair of you.
Oh, is the cleanser like a known title around here? Or is it just like what they call you? I mean, I'm all for, keep it on the down low. I was just curious what the holdup would be.
Fair questions. I fear that if I make my title known, that more questions could be asked. And I think it would be best to act as if we stumbled upon Peach Leaf's well troubles, perhaps naturally.
Yeah, don't want to panic the people.
Exactly. I fear if word of a cleanser of the maroon steel is running about Summer Bin's small villages, that may lead to further investigations. And those further investigations are really what would create an unneeded stress in my current research that I'm diving into.
You said the maroon stone?
Maroon steel.
Steel? That sounds fancy. Is that like a group around here?
Armit would probably look from Renny to Enna. Probably like a curious look in his eyes, as he's probably genuinely trying to tell if you've never heard of the maroon steel. And from both of yours knowledge, you've never heard of this, and he would maybe give a little bit of a shrug. Fair enough. I suppose we never did get to do proper introductions at Mother Baba's when we first met.
Well, no, I don't mean to pry. We just got in not too long ago, and just still trying to, get our feet under us, understand the lay of the land. Obviously, don't want to say things we're not supposed to or run into groups we shouldn't. Not saying your group is, just, like I said, just try and figure it all out.
I understand. That does make a lot of sense. I suppose for a bit of backstory here, the Maroon Steel, specifically the Circles of Maroon Steel, they operate out of Arlemere, the Forged Lily. I'm a mid-circle cleanser of the Maroon Steel. My work generally entails purifying contaminated items, people, hells, even a place or two. By contaminated, I generally mean those that would maybe be under an ailing poison, sickness, disease, hells, yeah, even a curse once. But over the past months, I've started seeing a different sort of contamination start to seed in the Southlands at large. Minor elemental fissures and cracks that are showing small events that, when possibly first viewed, could be simply written off as scattered and isolated occurrences. And you'd probably see like a little bit of like a salty turn on his expression. This being what the circles of maroon steel currently think. Just the elemental planes settling, they say. Armit, turn your thoughts towards something worth your efforts, they'd coo. And he would look a little perturbed, like he's away from the gold reach right now, reflecting back on these past conversations.
Okay. Well, that sounds pretty like a noble calling. I mean, helping people out. I mean, so yeah, we're all dredgers. And we're just traveling through. We'll just follow your lead.
And Armit would look over at Enya. What would Enya's expression be?
She looks, how do I describe that? Like what he's saying is really concerning to her. Like, I think, with her education in the House of Illuminated Flames, that she can't help but think of, the history with the elemental planes.
Mm-hmm.
And, pairing that with his general caginess about what they're doing and the fact that he wants to keep it down low key, and now he even doesn't want people to know that he's a cleanser and he's part of this big group. And I don't know, I feel like she's kind of putting pieces together with that. I know it was last session, but that nat 20 of insight before they left. So at this point, 5 hours ago, 6 hours ago?
Yeah, loosely, give or take.
She's probably I think it's a sort of thing where she wants to ask more, but she's afraid if she says it, she might be right. So she's biting her tongue, I guess you could say.
That's fair. I'm going to have Cleanser Armit roll an insight check.
I'm not used to that happening to me.
A 19. So you can roll a persuasion, deception. I would even take maybe a performance or intimidation if you want to flavor it that way, as far as how well Enya is sort of fully disguising that intent. Is she keeping it below surface, or is this sort of worn on the sleeve a little bit?
How do I want to flavor this? We'll say it's more of a deception. She's just trying to act like she's not alarmed.
I'll let you pick normal, advantage, or disadvantage if you'd like.
I think normal.
Fair enough.
She wasn't prepared to hide this.
Mm-hmm. An 18 deception. It'd probably be a little moment. Maybe you and Armit maybe share a look. Please, feel free to share your mind. I do apologize to both of you for not possibly handing off more information, but I do hope you understand my position in this. I only wish to investigate. The circles, they are so obsessed with maintaining the status quo. They have little interest to actually see if their claims are truly accurate, but not me. If I am overthinking these events, I want to find the answers for myself. Trusting the plain seers will only get you so far. If you really want answers, sometimes you have to do the work yourself, I mean, hells. Of course you know. Both of you are dredgers. You understand that getting your hands in the mud is needed most often.
Well, Enya sort of scratches at her neck. I wasn't always a dredger, as if she didn't just start 2 months ago. I was actually, Enya sort of scratches at her neck. I wasn't always a dredger. I was a novice at the House of Illuminated Flames. And with that history, I can't help but be reminded of the elemental plane invasions throughout past eons or so. You don't think this... I mean, this sounds kind of like what people described about back then. Do you think this is a new wave?
You would see Armit maybe stiffen up a little bit. That is the worst possible outcome I hope to find. You are correct. When comparing some of the ancient texts and tomes, this feels almost, for lack of a better word, like a repeating occurrence from my observations. During some of the first incursions, yes, there were small events like this. Rips, tears, leading to gashes, leading to fissures. This could be the early steps of this. This could be... You would almost see a grimace on his face, as if maybe trying to calm both of you, or at least Enya. Perhaps it could be the elemental planes settling. But I don't have enough information yet. I truthfully cannot say one way or the other of which side these events may fall.
Enya's giving Renny a look, and somehow with her eyes, she's trying to convey, like, my visions! My visions! I am concerned!
Renny has Lucky in his hands.
Uh,
You were so big back there. You're so cute. I love you so much. Biscuit doesn't even mean anything. And you just hear Jarble because it's a thieves camp.
yeah.
Renny's just like, fuck it. We're treasures. I'm down.
She just has to sigh, like, I'll have to talk to him later. Well, I suppose all we can do is head out and look for ourselves. We'll keep your identity under wraps if that's what you wish. Dredger, aren't it?
Let me do a perception to see if he's paying attention. Oh, okay, never mind.
That is a dirty 20 for Rennie's perception.
All right, a little retcon figure. He just got done sweet talking and then caught like the tail end and they gave her a look like, ooh, this could be trouble. But also, you stop visualizing such dangerous things.
Visions. Visions!
But yeah, he'll just share the look.
I, again, did not mean to impart any of this in a effort to bring worry or stress upon either one of you. But since you will be accompanying me to this well, and I cannot guarantee what we will find, I felt it prudent to at least give you this. The least and only information I could truly impart, at least on why we are out here, motioning to the forest around you.
Well, that explains why you seem so hesitant to talk about this. The fairy folk.
And his eyes would maybe like narrow a little bit. Come again?
Oh, your words were no secret to me, Speaker Armit. My good friend at the monastery taught me Elvish.
A bit of a grin would like peek across his face. I honestly didn't expect dredgers to be so that's a good way to put it, multi-skilled. That's a fault of mine. But yes, when we got our ferry and the driver there asked our business, I imparted a lie. I told them that we were off into the Gold Reach in search of truffles and night bulbs. A gallivanting sort of act that many travelers do when they come to Summerbend. An easy lie to tell, I suppose.
And I suppose there aren't many clawfoot near the ferry dock. Can't imagine truffles and bulbs are worth encountering those.
No, not worth that hassle, that is for certain. And in the parting moments of our long rest, as you guys would remain in this opening in the forest for, maybe about an hour or so, getting that short rest. Any other questions or any other things you guys would particularly like to get into in this brief moment you would have to talk freely or do anything else you need?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna use Psychic Whispers.
Psychic Whispers, what does that do for us?
So we can speak to Lucky without these cans.
You're right, Lucky. Let's just take Biscuit and head back. I can telepathically communicate with the number of people equal to my proficiency bonus. They can send and receive, no action. They can also talk to me freely. We have to be in 1 mile of each other. I just have to roll a psionic dice, so D6, see how many hours we keep it up.
Roll me D6.
And I think the first time I use it, I don't have to expend the die. But I do need to roll it to see
The duration.
Yeah. So for 4
Nice.
hours,
Nice.
I will, of course, pick Lucky in it. I've been practicing with Lucky on the boat. I don't think he liked it at first. But yeah, he'll just kind of, maybe as he's turning, just double checking on like Biscuit. It's just a little less obvious. Maybe kind of like his eyes close for a quick second. That little kind of greenish, smoky energy, and then dissipate. And then he'll just, hey, don't freak out. I know this is new. I've been practicing with Lucky. But I figured maybe we could communicate a little discreetly since Armit's all about his discretion. Do we still feel good about this? Should we be worried?
Well, wow, this is weird. Okay, focus.
Yeah, just think your thoughts. Also, this will be up for 4 hours.
She's like trying to act casual. I don't know if I need to roll a deception, but she's just like messing with the straps like over and over, like a Star Trek extra in the background.
We'll let your 18 deception from earlier ride.
Nice.
And thankfully, Armit wouldn't be, looking at you curiously, trying to glean anything at this time, as he would be in like, not really like a trance, but maybe like a loose meditation, just sort of like crisscross applesauce, just maybe right by Sunbeam, his riding lizard.
Yeah, so she's just messing with the straps, so they're both looking away from each other as they speak in their minds. She says, well, I'm nervous, but not because I doubt Hunter Armit's motivations to be pure. I'm just concerned about, what he just reported to us. It matching up with my visions, I can't help but wonder if all of this is connected.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, this is kind of the first real lead for what you've been visualizing. Plus, we've yet to find my cave yet, so
Right.
I guess this is a better lead for what we've been seeing.
It's a good lead for my vision, though perhaps not yours. It doesn't seem like a place with many caves around, not like how you described yours.
Yeah, and that's fair, because mine's intuition, not a vision, so that would be different.
All right. Well, if you want, we could try another meditation session. Not now, obviously, but perhaps tonight after we arrive in the village.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't think we've tried since the desert, and what he was saying, maybe we'd have some better luck this time.
Yes, maybe being near this well anomaly will channel certain things. I'm not sure.
Are you able to focus on anything when you have these visions, or are they just brought to you?
They just sort of pull me under like an ocean current. Your hands are the only thing that bring me back to the surface.
Maybe this time we could try and, if you believe in the Pantheon so much, maybe you could try and ask for some answers? Be a little more, maybe we could try and direct it this time.
Okay. That's not a bad idea.
Instead of seeing what comes, we can ask.
Sure. As we ride, I'll think over the various members of the Pantheon and see who seems like a good focus.
Yeah, somebody to reach out to. Oh, if anything comes up, we have probably just a few more hours. Yeah.
Though we are in the Southlands, and they do seem to focus on the old gods here. Do you think I should? I'll think about both. Maybe I should.
Use that dredger's intuition and see which one pops out.
All right, I'll do that.
And as he's getting on, you just hear, "Come on, you chunky little mouse." Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't for you.
It's just gonna take some getting used to. She like pops up on her lizard.
Our scene sort of panning back just a little bit as the long rest would end, staying here in this space for only about an hour. Cleanser Armit joining both of you and climbing back atop your riding lizards, where we would see them take off once more. You would see Armit in the lead still, and he would always be using that almost hovering apple-sized orb, almost like a compass, now being able to watch fully as he would be doing his best to keep this orb sort of hovering position as it's almost locked in place as he moves around. He's trying to keep it loosely in the center of his chest. The orb itself, again, seeming affixed to a direction, acting almost like a guiding system. As we would see our group of three riding back out into the thick forest, continuing on their journey to the riverside village known as the Peachleaf Community. Thankfully, the second portion of their travel would take just a little bit less time than the first portion, and thankfully also be much less dangerous or filled with clawfoots, maybe. As we would see, the next about 3.5 hours or so go by pretty quick as you progress on and on into the day. As the hours begin to pass by Renny, Enna, and Armit, their riding lizard still wounded but moving as quickly as possible, the daylight would begin to fade. Much like Armit maybe mentioned, I don't have much time to wait here, as he said back in the opening that Glenn, the last portion of your travel would be essentially through fading, faltering sunlight. As the oranges and purples would overtake the sky, you can slowly begin to see the two moons begin to creep out as the sun fades. The final 15 minutes of your trek would be in almost pure darkness. The dark night sky hanging overhead, the stars and moons alighting the forest around you. Watching as our party atop their riding lizards would stride through the forest, both of you noting eventually you'd come to a dirt path. Not much longer after your riding lizards get onto the path, you would find them striding into a riverside village. You could maybe have seen the lingering light of a settlement just off as you approached. But as you step in proper, you would see this humble hamlet nestled just along the water's edge. Seeing the cleared out grounds where the buildings lie would be lit with stray torches and a sizable central bonfire. Looking around both Renny and Enna, you would see maybe 12 or so intricately built, straw-topped huts. Their make being of simple materials found here in the forest, but each one looking very uniquely crafted. Also noting, there would be 2 small, quaint docks running off from the shore into the river itself. And as our party would move into the central of this village, taking in the sight of the Peachleaf community for the first time, you both would also note a few of its halfling citizens. And as the riding lizards get fully into the center of this small hamlet, you would see more of these curious halflings begin to poke their heads out of their huts, some sort of walking out into the village proper, all of them with very curious looks as you begin to enter the settlement fully. As the riding lizards get to that central bonfire, they would come to a bit of a standstill as Armit would pull back on his reins. Whoa, whoa, Sunbeam, it's good enough, friend, it's good enough. As he would begin to gracefully dismount his riding lizard. Looking over at Renny and Enna, we would probably see them hopping off their respective lizards in the center of this nice little town, village. It's very small. Seeing the trio dismount, you would likely hear a voice shout out from one of the larger hut-like structures here in the Peachleaf community. This voice coming from a halfling figure that's stepping down from the front steps of this double-wide hut. Welcome to Peachleaf! Welcome to Peachleaf! As you can see, this older halfling with a bit of a faded and thinning hairline that exposes sort of the top of his scalp would be sporting a bit of a beer gut on his very small halfling frame, wearing handmade clothings and garments. Hi, name's Kimber Peachleaf. Pleasure to have you all here. Oh, y'all, could you stop looking at him? Look, we don't often get travelers stopping by on lizardback at this hour. Please forgive some of the curious eyes. As you can see, this halfling motioning to the other citizens, essentially gawking at you, noting that there's maybe 20 or so halflings all curiously looking from huts or from where they currently stand at you. Both of you probably being able to ballpark guess that the size of this community can't be more than 50 members, like absolute tops. Ah, uh, I am sorry, friends, but sadly, our two storefronts are closed for the evening. He'd have like a bit of a hearty smile before Armit would sort of like raise a hand, almost like reassuringly. I, I assure you, my friend, me and my companions here, we were in the midst of the Gold Reach when a cluster of clawfoot beseeched us. And he would be motioning to probably some of his lingering wounds in the riding lizards on both of you. We just barely made it out. Got a little off course on our truck, but I heard of this lovely community and a few passerbyers, a couple mentions, and I figured it was worth a shot. Better than traveling out in the nightfall. It's that older halfling grinning. That's too true. That is too true. Hey, tell you what, let's get out of here. Can I get y'all a drink? I'd be more than happy to buy you fine travelers a drink. Please come right this way, right this way. That older halfling not even taking anything you would say or do into consideration, just assuming you're going to follow them, would sort of turn on a heel as you would see them waddle off towards that large double-wide hut. Probably noting that as he would begin to walk over to what you're guessing is likely the tavern here, you'd see a few other halflings probably begin to trickle in with him. Armit probably looking at the two of you, giving a bit of a nod, a bit of like a, maybe like a hidden thumbs up. Doing good so far. As he would begin to make his way to the tavern. Would Renny and Enna like to join at the tavern, or would they like to hang out by the riding lizards?
I probably want to make sure the lizards are like nice and secure. Don't want them to go about trampling these little houses.
As you look, the lizards, they're all laying on their belly, like fairly close to the fire, maybe uncomfortably close to the fire, as they're just doing classic reptile things and just huddling around the giant warmth of this central bonfire.
If they look content and like they don't need to be like looked after, they don't need anything right now, I guess he would follow him.
Yeah. Be good, Dapple.
And would just sort of like lick its tongue out in your general direction. As we would see you begin to head over to this tavern again, maybe like 10 or so other halflings beginning to follow in Kimber Peachleaf into the again, assumingly tavern. Armit, Enna, and Renny likely entering this halfling-sized tavern with maybe a slight shock in just a half second. As immediately upon opening the door, you're hit by the classic musk of what's almost like an old shed with like lavender incense being lit on the interior. But more importantly, it's the size of this place that maybe throws you off. Because again, it's pretty big on the outside. You expected something. But as the doors would be open, again, halfling sized, and yeah, you'd have about maybe a 6-inch clearance or so from the ceiling overhead. It is incredibly low ceilings for you. Watching Armit in the lead for his tall elven form, he's essentially in like a constant uneasy crouch whenever he's trying to move into this tavern or about it, as he is too tall for this place. But for Renny, as you would step in, this is maybe one of the first times in Renny's life, I'd imagine, where he's walked into a tavern created for halflings, looking around, seeing every other patron in here would be halflings. The tables being the perfect size, bar top being perfectly sized. Maybe just this first moment of like, oh, okay, this is what it's like to be living with people that actually get what it's like to be, my stature.
It's like total culture shock. He's probably really like quiet and just like taking everything in constantly.
As you would enter the tavern, you would see the makeshift tables and chairs would be scattered about that open floor of the tavern. On the right would be the actual bar top, and so you'd see a barkeep. On the left, sort of set almost into the wall, you would see what looks like a small stage sort of tucked in with a row of stairs that sort of go up into a supposed second level, just sort of off to the side of that little stage. You would see Kimber Peachleaf waddling over to the bar top, sort of striding up, placing an elbow on there. Derek, could you get my friends here something to drink? It probably looks as Armit and Enna are maybe trying to follow him on his course. Every other halfling that sort of trickled in or maybe was even already in here, they're all looking at you so curiously. And as you approach, honey wine? You guys like honey wine? Sorry, I know you're not really from here, but it's not really like wine. It's kind of like wine. You gotta try it. Tarek, just get us 3 honey wines on me. And you see this sort of red-haired halfling behind the counter get these wooden tankards, go over to this, what would maybe be like a medium-sized keg for most people, but halfling standards, it's a big old keg for them. Heading over to the spigot, filling up these 3 wooden steins, placing each one in front of you 3 as Armit, Enna, and Renny probably get to that bar top. Again, Armit probably is like uncomfortably crouched just to even be at the bar top. Enna, it's comfortable, sitting on the stool. Again, it's maybe a little small, but it works fine. Renny, this is perfect. As you climb into the stool, a wooden tankard being put in front of you where you see it looks almost like an amber-colored wine, almost. No real head, like a little bit of bubbling. Almost without skipping a beat, like not giving anyone time to speak. Kimber Peachleaf just continues on. Now, Tarek, you gotta hear what they said. Y'all said that you got attacked by clawfoots out there, like a whole pack or like a hunting party. Like, what are we talking here? Armit would probably go on to explain the encounter and how you and him, the 3 of you, you had been out looking for possible dredging opportunities. Armit probably going on to further cement that, they're just out here in the wilds, just enjoying the space, looking for work. Chit-chat would probably go on for a little bit between Armit and Kimber. Kimber not particularly speaking to either one of you, since Armit seems to be our point guard on this whole conversation. But as it sort of evolves, and they sort of chit-chat, what would Renny and Enna be up to as they'd be nestled at this, halfling tavern bar top, wooden tankard in hand, sipping on? It is incredibly sweet. For Renny, this is a classic honey mead. There's maybe a little like nectar or something sweet in there, but I mean, this is like some of the sweetest mead Renny could ask for. It's almost too perfect.
And yeah, I think we found paradise. This place is amazing.
This honey wine is certainly excellent. I'm detecting notes of nectarine, I think that is. I'm not sure. It's not quite the same. But it is a bit small in here for me. She reaches her hand up and just touches an overhead support beam. Pat pat.
Yeah, but look how great this is. And he gestures towards his feet and they're touching. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love to kick my legs, but this is great. I mean, look. And he'll just stand up very easily instead of sliding off.
Like he always has to do his whole life.
Yeah, he's always jumping up and sliding off of things. It's this is great. I've never seen so many halflings in my life.
Have you never been in a place like this before?
No, just mostly up north, always around Dragonport and Dragonlings. I mean, my Uncle Finnegan always said never trust a halfling, but so far, these people seem pretty cool. Although he does do a quick look around.
Yeah, both of you guys give me some perception checks.
Yeah, and he's also looking around, but not with suspicion.
Yeah, you're just taking in the room. You're a patron enjoying the atmosphere.
His uncle was a scammer. He was raised this way.
Oh, we have a 16 for Enna and a 10 for Renny. We'll start with Enna. You're 16. You take in the room, and maybe after 5, 6-ish minutes of being in here, many of those sort of gawking and curious halflings, they would all be sort of enraptured in their own tables. You would see them all maybe milling about. Maybe you see a couple card games at one table. Almost everyone here is drinking this honey wine. It is clearly a local favorite. As you're taking this in, it's a very jovial atmosphere. This place almost has an atmosphere of like a family meal. As you would see some tables maybe lean over to another, maybe make jest or jokes. Another looking over as a patron would enter a couple tables. Hey, it's Zara! As Zara comes in and everyone sort of greets her. Everyone here is very close. Again, almost like family, it feels like. For Renny, you get a bit distracted. You maybe need to take in that room, do a once-over. But it's probably the barkeep. It's maybe maybe something on the lapel of his vest that would catch you. It would be what looks like a pendant, sort of right on essentially like above the breast pocket. And it would be a pendant of what looks like a wooden carved and painted peach. It would have sort of a pronounced, almost caricature leaf on it. And who would be wearing it proud, almost like a button, maybe like a badge even. And maybe you do a once around, Renny, you could see a couple people have small affixes like this of peaches. And maybe after you're looking around at a few tables, and you maybe can begin to see that as well. There would be one woman who would have what would look like a pendant on like a necklace. Another fellow that has like no sleeves would have what looks like an actual tattoo on his bicep of that same sort of peach emblem with like a very overdone leaf that sort of drapes across it. But this place is calm, jovial, kind of lighthearted. It's probably a little relaxing.
Perhaps this is paradise, Renny.
I mean, we'd have to get you a bigger stool, but I think it's pretty great.
Can't imagine what the beds will be like.
Oh, that's a good point. Well, I was hoping it'd be nice enough to sleep outside. And if the riding lizards by the fire, it sounds kind of nice to me.
I think I'd have to, regardless.
That's fair. Maybe you could just put like 2 beds together.
At least down here in the south, we don't have to worry about freezing to death.
That's fair. Sometimes I do miss a little chill in the bones. Instead of just always being so sweaty. And he's holding Lucky up to his mug as he tips it so he can drink out of it.
Waterboarding your poor mouse.
He likes it. Maybe he just makes like a little puddle on the counter and lets him drink out of it. And then when the bartender comes by, he'd get his attention. Excuse me.
Hey, did you need a refill on that one? Oh, I could get your little friend there like a little, I don't know, like a little. I could get something small for him. You don't gotta like pour a little puddle on them.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I could go clean it up. Yeah, if you could get something
that's a good idea. I could do that. Yeah,
that'd be perfect. But just one. He doesn't need too much. And then when he comes back with it, that's when he'll ask about his. Like when he puts it down, he'll just be like, "Hey, I'm sorry. Can I just ask you about your little like pin there of the peach?"
Oh, as he like puts the thimble down, you probably maybe splashed like a little bit more of your honey wine in there for him. Oh, this thing. I mean, yeah, a few of us got these. I mean, and he probably looks at you curiously. I mean, a lot of halflings, we usually have our house, branding on us. It's sort of like a show of affirmation. Do you not have a house, friend?
Oh, I've never seen anybody else with one like this. And he'll pull out his.
Wow, what's this? An apple. That's super cute. Wow.
Yeah. It was given to me when I was really young. I was sent up north to live in Voltier. Yeah, I've just never seen anybody else with anything like this. Although yours looks like wood, I'm not quite sure what this is made out of. I'll give it like a little flick. But it looks so much like the apple. I was just curious. Have you heard of any places that have this one?
Apple. Not that I could think of, friend. And he probably looks over at Armit and Kimber in the midst of their talking, and without a regard, the barkeep Tarek. Kimber, you shut up for 2 seconds. Hey, have you ever heard of a halfling house with apple? Something like this? And he probably just like shows off that yours is like on a necklace, right? It's like an actual little apple.
Yeah.
And he would sort of like show it off in his palm over to Kimber, and Kimber would maybe like squint his eyes. Oh, wow. Oh, hey, okay. Let me see here. Apple. I mean, the only house I could think of that depicted an apple would be the Applewicks. But, I mean, hell, no one's heard from them in some time. And, I mean, we've been here for how many years? And Tarek giving a bit of a nod to the barkeep. Hey, that's fair enough, Kimber. Thank you very much. Applewick, I don't know if that does anything for you.
Oh, well, I'm an Applewick. Renny Applewick.
And Kimber would maybe like look across Armit. Now, did you just say that you're an Applewick?
Yes, sir. He'll sit up a little straighter.
I mean, I honestly just thought it was maybe like a fun little trinket or something. I mean, the Applewick, actual branding doesn't quite look like that one. I've never quite seen one like that or that make, if I'm being honest.
That's fair.
I mean, ever since the web weavers, sort of absorbed them in, sort of did what the web weavers usually do in Malachar, not a whole lot's been heard of him. He's maybe realizing what he's saying. Wait, were you in Malachar? Did you manage to, get out?
Is Malachar where the Applewicks are from?
That's where a lot of halflings are from.
I've lived in Ulthir most of my life.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm from up north. We just got out of town. We're dredgers, so we travel around a lot, but most of my life was up north.
Well, shoot. Okay. Well.
Yeah, this is kind of the last thing I remember from my family, and he'll put it back on, like tuck it.
All right, and you would see Kimber maybe like reposition, and he looks at Armit. Armit, I'm gonna need just 1 second, bud. You can tell me more about those dredger stories. I gotta talk to your friend here. And he maybe looks over at you. Friend, what was your name? You said Renny? You said Renny Applewick?
Yes, sir. I mean Renford Applewick, but I go by Renny.
Right. You said you've been up north for how long? Like your whole life? You don't know? You never been to Malachar? Never heard word from your parents?
No, sir. I think I was born there, but when I was about 2 or 3, my parents sent me up to Ulthir to live with my uncle.
Okay.
But he wasn't an Applewick. I mean, he went by... I mean, it's hard to say because he was up there, but he was a Finnegan Good Barrel.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've heard of Good Barrel. I mean, never heard of one up north, but I mean... Okay.
He's a bit of a trader, entrepreneur of sorts.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. They sent me to kind of learn the business, I guess. This is just the only thing I really have left from them.
Oh.
That I know of. Yeah. Just always had it.
All right. Well...
Can I do an insight check to see if he looks like disturbed or not?
Yeah, so give me an insight check. That's a very good idea.
I'm watching. Can I also give an insight?
Give me an insight check.
I'm lucky. Oh wait, yeah, ability check, right? It's like
yeah.
Or is it that one?
Yeah, halfling luck or something, right?
Yeah.
12.
12 for Enna.
Improvement.
I'm too caught up in this story. I don't care what he's saying. Feed me.
Enna with a 12 insight check. Kimber looks like he's trying to figure out the best way to hand off bad news.
I'll sort of like put my hand on Rennie's shoulder, like supportively, but also like, hey, come down, like, hey, pay attention.
He'll kind of look over and then kind of like look back and then kind of and then like kind of settle a little bit. Okay. I mean, you could just tell me, it's fine.
Of course, yeah.
I don't know what a web weaver is, but
well, what it is okay. Applewicks. The Applewicks, they're I mean, honestly, they're some of the best crafters. I mean, we had some of the finest cloths you could ever see. Garments so fine. I mean, they'd put this shit I'm wearing to shame. But last I heard, Renny, they got in bad with the web weavers. Web weavers, I guess you wouldn't know, but web weavers do usually run a lot of the sort of banking affairs and sort of financial meanings, if you will, of Malachar. Now, I don't really have a whole lot of specifics, but the web weavers did what they do. They absorbed the business, took it under their control. We assume the Applewicks just left out of shame. Not exactly sure. I mean, a lot of us were told that they were, bad on debt, or they made promises they couldn't keep. Some bullshit hierarchy. Look, Renny, I mean, I'm only telling you all this because that's why we left. A lot of us here in the Peachleaf community, we discarded our house names and we left Malachar's injustices behind to find our own way. Get away from people like that think they have a say on how people should just live their life.
You ever heard from him in a while?
like I said, we thought they left. There was no sign of them, at least as far as I can recall. They just up and left. They were gone. Can't we just assumed it was web weavers doing an absorption like they always do? But once more things started happening after that, and more of us started talking, we were realizing that, well, we were getting the shit into the stick every time, no matter what. Halfling brothers treating halfling brothers like that. It wasn't just the gnomes. And a lot of people may think that they're a source of the corruption in Malachar, but they're not. It's everyone. It's all of them.
And where exactly is this Malachar at?
Well, north Nosvid. It's going to be a pretty hefty trek off to your sort of west there. It's not in the Sarin Cliffs or nothing, so you won't have to worry about nothing like that. But Malachar's big. Again, I take it you don't know it. It's big. It's one of the biggest settlements in Nosvid, honestly, maybe outside of Kos.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I'll let you get back to Armit. I think I'm gonna go get some beer for a minute. I'm gonna thank you. And he's just gonna scoop up Lucky and head outside.
Right. And like Armit would probably put a hand on Kimber's shoulder, very similar to what Enna was doing. My friend, I find when imparting bad news, it's best to leave it at the recipient's discretion on when to end that conversation. And Kimber would give a bit of a nod and maybe turn back. If Enna hasn't left, Armit probably looks over at Enna and just probably gives like the nod to make sure your friend is okay if that's what you feel like you need to do.
Yeah, I think she will. I think she would sort of hesitate and linger just long enough to kind of watch him start to leave, and then she'll throw down her drink. Finish off Renny's probably abandoned drink.
Don't forget the half pimple. You can pick out the mouse hair.
Oh, just gonna leave that. And then duck her way out.
For Renny, as you make your way from the bar top, crossing that open tavern room where you would see all the other tables filled with all the other halflings, many of them probably give you looks, smiling, maybe some curious, just off your expression you may have. But what would be going through Renny's mind as he makes his way out of this tavern into the open air night?
He's gonna go. I guess it's a little bit of a roller coaster. For a minute, he's like, "Oh shit!" Maybe they would know, how to find his parents. This could be. It's the first kind of break he's had, and then to hear they haven't been heard from, and I guess getting the bad news, he feels like a mix of that deflated sadness, but just pure anger towards the web weavers.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's he would just be looking past everybody, 1,000-yard stare, and then he's gonna go just a little bit outside of the village, and he's gonna find a nice tree to just wail on.
Just let it out.
And it would probably be that angry, maybe a little teary, but just quiet anger of just hacking at this thing as hard as he can. He wouldn't be using his psychic blades either. He'd have his actual sword and dagger out, just letting loose. And in his mind, the tree to him is the web reavers, but in his mind he's a little defeated because he got hope for a second.
Mm-hmm. There was that brief moment of having answers, only to be left with even more questions. And from Enna's point of view, you would see Renny probably get to that front door as you're finishing your drink. You would walk through it as you begin to stand up and follow him. Maybe you give him a little bit of space as you walk out, and you could see him heading just off to some of the nearby trees, and you keep a curious distance, keeping him in your line of sight. And you would see what Renny has done many times, striding over to a tree, maybe 20, 30 feet outside of, the actual parameters of the village, of the Peachleaf community. And you would see him just wailing on this tree. Just blow after blow after blow.
Yeah. I imagine she'd, just give him his space, like keeping a good, I don't know, at least 30 feet back, I suppose.
So you're probably like in the village watching him, basically.
Yeah, like within earshot, but not
Sure.
like too close. And she'd probably just sit kind of on the edge, nearish where he's chosen to, let that out, and just kind of keep her back to him to give him like some sense of privacy. But she also like doesn't want to leave him alone right now.
Oh yeah, and imagine from your point, he is probably obfuscated. You can just see those like movements that is Renny, and maybe with like the right positioning, or maybe crouching down some, looking through some of the branches and trunks. You can get a sight of him, but it would be easy just to turn your back a little bit. You can barely even hear the impacts. He is awfully precise with these strikes.
Just silent, distant support.
Mm-hmm. How long would Renny need to expel this? How long would he need to sort of feel at least a minor like satiation of a semblance of like, okay, maybe I don't have to be hurting things at this exact moment?
It'd probably be like a good 5-10 minutes, somewhere in there, of just until he just feels like exhausted. So just hack, and then maybe once he goes a really hard one with his sword, it just comes out of his hand. Then maybe he just pulls out his dagger and goes, and then eventually he just kind of they all just fall, and he just puts his back to the tree and just slumps down. And just stares at his feet.
For Enna, it's probably that of those light impacts you were hearing. You'd only catch a couple of them every now and again, but they would stop. And then maybe worry you for a minute. You turn back, maybe do that reposturing and positioning, and you would see Renny. He'd be right by that same tree. He'd be in a ball, kind of at the feet of it, kind of legs pulled up just a little bit, not in oh, I'm just sobbing way, but just in an exhaustion way, in this 10,000 mile stare. The tree that he's resting against is littered with strike marks. He eviscerated the trunk of this tree.
He probably has some tears, but not hard crying, just a little streaming down.
And you would walk up and sort of just quietly approach, not looking at you directly yet, kind of taking in the tree, I think, reaching your hand out, feeling the marks under her fingers. She tries to think of what to say. She'll sit down next to you, kind of catty corner to you on the tree.
He wouldn't change his gaze, but he would just let out it's just not fair. It's just not fair. I would have just rather not known. I hope for a minute. And now they're probably gone again. It's not fair.
I know.
He'd probably start petting Lucky now.
She sort of turns to look at you now that you're kind of engaging with her. It's not fair. I'm sorry, I know it. I know it probably hurts. Especially news like that, but if you want, we can keep our ear out for these web weavers. More news of your family. I know it wasn't great news, but it is something. You know more than you did before. It's more than some can say.
You're right, I'm sorry. I know you probably don't familiar with your parents. At least I have a lead.
Yeah. Mine are probably dead. Who cares, right?
You don't have to say that. I gave up on looking for them. I gave up on finding them. But then, you just get this thread of hope, and then somebody just cuts it in the same night. It's just I found this little... I've been around so many halflings. Things are made for me here, and then you know, just like a gut punch and everything's fine. I don't even know these web weavers, but I hate them.
I hate them too. But not to be
You can say it, and yeah.
I mean, but you didn't give up on finding them, right? When I brought it up with Mother Baba, you couldn't help but change your answer.
Yeah, but the only reason I didn't even give that answer in the beginning is because I gave up. Now I feel guilty for giving up on top of defeat. He's gonna pick up a little piece of bark that like came off, and he's gonna grab his knife and he's gonna whittle a little apple for Lucky.
Oh, that's so fucking cute.
It's adorable.
Oh.
No rolls needed. You carve a perfect goddamn apple for your mouse.
She just sort of watches you do that for a little bit. Well, maybe you can make me one of those someday. We're family now, right?
Guess he'd probably look up like, hit a nerve. Should have made you one sooner. I'll make you one.
It's okay. We didn't know what it meant. Now we do.
Just thought it was a fun trinket. I guess there would be 3 for Clan Applewick for a while.
Just sort of claps her hand on your shoulder. Gives it a squeeze.
A long minute or two would roll by, out here in the dark forest scape, just outside of the river village. Stars lighting the sky still, both moons in full swing. You would probably see a figure begin to leave the village. You would probably be looking around curiously for a minute, both of you may be getting a bird's eye view. It's easy to tell who this is. No one in this village is over 6 foot. As you would see Armit probably after, a minute or so of maybe poking around, he would begin heading your general direction, maybe doing a little bit of surveying before seeing maybe Enna. You would see the half-elf man sort of come around through some of the trees. Hi, well, this is not at all what I expected this evening to turn into. Are you okay, Renny? Are you still willing to help me with aiding this town, this village?
Yeah, of course. He kind of like takes that like deep, almost like a little bit of shaky breath. I am a dredger after all. These are halflings, I guess, my people. Still in. I'm still with it. I'll square it away by morning.
Excellent. A slight silver lining, and he would hold up what looks like kind of an old rusty key. They imparted with me the key to the well house. It's actually just a little bit behind the tavern there, though I think it is probably best if we get sleep. I don't know if any one of us 3 is ready to face whatever the hell's is inside that well house right now.
It might be a little easier in daytime, too.
Fair point. On a possibly less silver note, there is one very small room they have. It's not even an inn. It is just a spare room that they happen to have in the upper floors of that tavern. Would either one of you like this space for the night, or, the pair of you, even, if you so choose? I would be more than happy to stay with the riding lizards, if that would ease any stress.
I was planning on sleeping next to Biscuit, personally. If either one of you want it.
Are you sure, Renny? It's probably a halfling-sized bed. It wouldn't accommodate either of us anyway.
I just kind of want to be outside.
Side as well. I think it's more comfortable under the stars than on the floor.
I guess, actually.
Sure. No room key or anything needed. They said it'll be the only unlocked door up there. No rush. Kimber feels many things. Many things. He is very sorry to have to be the one to tell you this. It's never easy hearing such news.
It's not his fault. I'm glad he told me. I think maybe just night alone to clear my head might do me some good. And then I'll be ready for tomorrow.
Excellent. I'm going to head back in, partake in something they are calling apple bread. You two feel free to come in whenever you see fit, or Renny, if you do change your mind, feel no obligation to come back in at all. Once we take care of this in the morning, we will set out.
He's looking at you. Like, I love apple bread.
Should I get us some? Do you want to come in?
Can you bring me some?
Yeah. And I'll get some for Lucky, of course.
Thank you.
She'll walk in with Armit.
So we would see Enna and Armit sort of make their way off from the... Again, you guys are a little bit outside of the village, so once they sort of step off, you're very much, in your own space again, Renny.
When he's alone, he'll find like a decent-sized piece that he can whittle into an apple, and he'll stash it somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And using that time and pretty quick with it. Because by the time Enna would actually come back with this, half loaf of bread that would essentially have pie innards just laced along the top and along the middle of the bread, coming over, handing over like a piece or two. Anything else in particular for our night here in the Peachleaf community for Enna and Renny?
He'll use that piece because a little one for Lucky, but when he's in the room and he has time, he'll whittle a better apple for Enna.
Mm-hmm. You sort of got like the loose shape of it so far. You just cut off some of the extra trim.
I'll find something to make it into a necklace. Trinket like his.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, he's going to devour that apple bread. He's going to eat his feelings for a minute.
Hey, learn it from your little big sis.
I love it. So will our sleeping arrangements be on this particular night? As we would see a little bit more time pass, moon still high overhead. Of course, there's the one room you guys are more than welcome to share, or one of you can take, or there's also sleeping out by the riding lizards, whatever feels suitable for your character.
Enna will be outside with the lizards. She'd rather sleep on the floor, like in the dirt near the fire with a sleeping roll than on the floor of a cramped room.
Fair.
And yeah, I know you want to sleep outside. Did you? It's been a little bit of a day. Did you want to try your meditation?
Are you sure you're up for it, Renny? I wasn't going to bring it up.
I feel like I let it out. I had my moment and my time, and now I don't know how to describe it. It's like after, I'm physically tired. I think I've cried out the sadness. I don't think I can anymore now. I just feel kind of like at peace for a moment.
Good. I think there's nothing better for a meditation than a tired body and a clear mind.
Sounds like something you'd say at the House of the Oppressive Flame. And you give it like a little sly smile.
Yeah, she's just like shaking her head. She doesn't bother correcting anymore at this point.
Where would our meditation be taking place? Did you guys want to do it by the central bonfire, maybe off to the side where Renny sort of let out the rage? Or like in the room? You could also go up to the room and do that before Enna went out to go to sleep.
I guess it depends on what seems like the most private. So Varmet's like also posted up by the riding lizards, probably not there.
I was kind of thinking out here.
Yeah, he would probably be over by that central bonfire.
Oh, that's a pretty good little spot, yeah.
Out here you got plenty of space.
Yeah, somewhere with like all this foliage to block the noise, the incredibly noisy hamlet, and like be able to hear the river kind of rushing by. So
yeah, I was gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hit the vibe.
As you guys do find that quiet spot, just a little way off from the river, you can hear the trickles of the water and maybe even the loose gigglings, maybe the loud chatter of a halfling from the Peachleaf community every now and again, but sort of adds to the atmosphere. Their jovial nature sort of seeding through the land. What would Inya's sort of meditation look like in this moment, out in this dense jungle in the late hours of the night?
Enya is thinking, everyone around here keeps referencing Ovadin, and they're in this incredibly, deep, natural place.
Mm-hmm.
While she is more familiar with the Draconic Pantheon, there is something that feels off about trying to channel them here in this place where the Tarragon Concord doesn't even rule.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's gonna try to channel an Ovadin themed sort of meditation session.
Ooh, okay.
Do I need to roll anything to see how well versed she is in Ovadin lore or whatever?
I'll let you tell me. If you'd rather roll, we could roll for it, but it's up to you.
I mean, I love rolling. But we'll say bare minimum she does know, she is familiar, flashcard level has a familiarity with each, but as far as what she knows more in depth, I think that's what I'll roll for.
That makes sense. I think that makes a lot of sense. As again, you find this quiet space. Again, knowing that Ovadin, the overseer, she would be the goddess of nature, growth, peace, and wildlife. So looking around at your current settings and all the natural foliage and wildlife around you in full swing, this feels like the perfect place to try to focus this Ovadin-centered, themed meditation.
Mm-hmm.
What would Renny's meditation look like?
I guess
I
you
mean,
would just.
Go
Okay. You would probably just try to copy Enya as much as possible, and then maybe just focus on some of the visions and stuff that she's described.
Mm-hmm.
Very much like a supporter role. Less of let me reach out to the gods, and more of just I wonder what this is about. Just trying to focus on it just to see what comes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I did imagine this was more of a guided meditation like we did last time.
Mm-hmm. And maybe the only real difference here being, well, I guess one, the setting, and two, maybe Renny's willingness to see if this may or may not actually do anything this time around.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed to need a little convincing last time, though you would maybe notice, Enya, that he is more receptive, probably takes some of those pointers and those guiding comments a little more thoroughly than last time. If both of you are trying to enter this sort of deep meditative state, both of you can roll me a religion check or a nature check, or you could also give one of you advantage. I'll let you guys decide how you want to shake it out.
Maybe we give Enya advantage. Because he's very much I guess the pitch was you should try and focus to see what they tell you.
Yeah.
More than let me get answers as well.
Yeah, I remember last time I had Enya guide us through a visualization of flame.
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks like she doesn't have any kind of specialized knowledge on Ovadin, which totally tracks. So she's just attempting to do the same thing with Ovadin's smile upon us. Let peace settle over us as we breathe in the nature around us and breathe out any lingering anxieties. Let your mind clear as the river rushes around us. On this a night of Ovadin's calm. I don't know, she's just kind of winging it.
You're essentially trying to take a lot of those chantings and mantras you heard at the monastery and retooling them a little bit for Ovadin.
Yeah, pretty much.
Insert God here.
Oh,
Nat 20.
That is a natural 20 religion check. Sort of tuning into this space, you would see Enya and Renny. After maybe a couple of minutes of that almost very guided entry into the meditation, we would see both Enya and Renny breathing in deep, letting out a full exhale. A calm lingers over this small space that they've nestled in. It's the first thing we'll go to is Enna. In this deep meditative state, you focus in. You try to bring your will up, as if rising. You center, you focus, breathing in and breathing out. The darkness of your mind would shift. Colors beginning to bleed in, blurring, mixing with the darkness. This progressing until all you can see are blurry shapes, vague silhouettes in this space. Only a moment later, your fuzzy vision would realign. And it would focus in on something you've never quite seen before, at least in any other vision. It feels the same, but feels different. As you sort of come to, you're looking out. You're soaring through the skies in a very unnatural way. Not like a creature with wings, but like an omnipresent view that relocates its sight skyward as it views these various different places below. From your cloud-top sight above, you look down on a vast continent. Pulling back, you see many of them. Your vision beginning to soar across these continents and lands. Some that possibly seem familiar, almost like the vision. But parts of this land, this territory that you're looking down on, it is entirely foreign. Your sight flies further, looking down at this world. Focusing in, you can see carnage and chaos throughout its widespread landscape. Cities lay in smoking heaps of rubble. Once beautiful forests turned to fields of ash, and entire cultures wiped out from the planet. This montage of suffering continuing on for an uncomfortable amount of time, but in your previous visions, Enna, everything felt so close. It felt so visceral. This vision feels almost like you're looking through someone else's eyes rather than your own. Almost as if this is a memory of someone or something. Words begin to fill the space, not narrating these terrible, gruesome scenes you're looking at, but almost pleading. And we'll cut to Renny. Renny, as you focus in, you would begin to dial your meditation, feeling its center, maybe feeling a true meditative state for the first time. Maybe it's slightly surreal, but you keep yourself in that zone, that position. You could see what looked like vague shapes, almost moving in the darkness of your mind. No color, no clear picture, but words. You can hear what sounds like an angelic voice, almost speaking like a choir of voices, uttering out each word. Almost like a song, almost heavenly. But there would be a deep pain and sadness in the voice. This central, almost blurry figure would be speaking out to what looks like a room of these figures. My brothers and sisters, this is a folly of our own doing. We overstepped our role and duty in safeguarding our worshippers. This being the price we are forced to pay. Enna, these words begin narrating over the terrible sights and visages that you're seeing. On this day, our power has seen an equal, a power of our own making. If we do not stand together as one unity, I fear the worst outcome may prevail. There being almost pauses for you, Renny, as you can see what looks like the other silhouettes, the other figures. As if they would be speaking, talking. They're just these black, almost shadowy figures. You can't hear what they say, but this centralized figure would continue as if replying in a conversation. Feeric, you must tell the others what you told me. You said yourself, brother, that this is not the death that the mortals deserve. You all must see reason. Looking over, you'd see the silhouette almost look at another silhouette off to its side as if it was flanking. Overton, please tell them. They must understand. If we do not do something to stop this, I fear our end is near. In a brief flash, both of you open your eyes. Renny, it's maybe slightly alarming, because just a moment ago, you were the one in deep sadness. But Enya's face is wrapped in sadness, maybe a few tears trickling out. Enya, those words that were being spoke. Towards the end, it felt like the voice was coming from you, not like a narrator that was speaking about this strange conversation that seemed unrelated to what you were looking at. Some of those last words felt as if they came from you. You felt the emotion. You felt that pain, the strain in this person's voice as they were pleading. As both of you maybe open your eyes in the shock at the exact same moment, there's maybe a slight recognition. Words don't need to be spoken between the two of you. You both just shared something much different than any other vision you've had.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Throat hurts a little.
Yeah, hey, maybe you just have some water, and maybe you just take Lucky for a minute.
Okay.
I'll give you his chunky mouse and his
She'll hold
flask
his
of water.
fat little body in her hands, stroking his fur with her thumbs.
I heard them talk about Ovidin, but I've never heard of Ferric.
I actually haven't heard of Ferric either. Not one of the draconic pantheon or early gods that I'm aware of.
Huh. Maybe we. I just feel like it's been a long day. Maybe we should just take a moment, enjoy the sound of the water and the trees, and just kind of ground ourselves, and then maybe we tackle this tomorrow.
Yes. I think that sounds wonderful. And he's actually going to move up to, go to the riverside and take her shoes off and dip her feet in the water.
One of your favorite pastimes on board the river ship, reborn in a slight consoling moment here. Would Renny join, or would Renny be heading back to that sort of bonfire where the riding lizards rest?
I think he joined for a minute. I think he was probably always jealous because he couldn't quite get his feet in the water like he wanted to on the boat. Like really slanking down. So he was like, oh, this is pleasant. This is nice.
It is. We should share what we saw in the morning.
Yeah, and perhaps maybe our dreams can bring more answers. Need some clarity.
Can't say I'm looking forward to that.
After fighting the Clawfoot things, and the news I've got, I think I killed a tree today. Good or bad dreams, I'm looking forward to some sleep.
Yes, you should enjoy your halfling paradise. Everything size just so for you.
Do you want some time here alone, or do you want me I can be quiet?
No, it's okay. I'm feeling better already, I think. We should get some proper rest in before tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you could have Lucky for tonight if you want.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, he's kind of like, oh, thank God.
Yeah,
I won't say it.
That, I think.
You pull Lucky back over. You're like, oh, thank God, as you pet him.
You held him out so slowly, and then as soon as she's like, no, before she's even done saying that, you've already pulled him back in.
He's putting him back in the...
Renny, give me a history or a perception check. In this moment on the water's edge, dunking your feet alongside your friend.
Mate.
An 8. Maybe sitting there, maybe a memory comes up. from well over a month ago. Back when you and Enna were leaving the Stoutfell Range. That strange vision she had. You maybe believe it a little bit more now, but those words you heard. You've heard some of those before. You think back. There's at least one phrase that stands out to you. So you remember hearing it. On this day, our power has seen its equal. A power of our own making. Those words maybe linger in your head for a minute. As our camera pans back, probably watching the two of you, maybe pull your feet out and loosely dry them off sometime later, boots on, heading back into the quiet, now sleeping village that is the Peachleaf community. As you head over to the central bonfire, you can probably already see that Armit is in his almost like meditative elven trance, just by Sunbeam, his riding lizard. As both of you move over to the fire space, Renny, did you still want to go into the tavern for your night's sleep, or did you want to remain out under the stars?
I think he'll go into the tavern. That way he can probably whittle the apple.
Love it.
And make a necklace, and then I think he just kind of wants to be alone a little bit after everything. Probably have whittle the apple, make the little necklace, and then he'll probably just flop on the bed and just have that stare at the ceiling as he just kind of lets the fight of the day, the news of the apple wicks, and the meditation. He's just letting it all soak in, I guess. He's processing it.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
As he kind of drifts off. So I think his mind went from that to this. And although he is happy that it's a halfling thing, I think one of the things that'll hit him when he gets in is oh yeah, the bed's gonna be smaller. Instead of these giant, in his mind, it's all big and roomy. Now it's not.
I think that's very fair.
Like a California king to a twin. He's oh yeah, that's right.
I guess paradise isn't all it's cracked up to be.
His foot actually hangs off the side a little bit because he sleeps he's skydiving.
As Renny would leave Enna to her rest by the large bonfire. You head inside the tavern, probably seeing Tarek the barkeep, probably loosely cleaning up, maybe prepping. He would give you a loose point over to those stairs by the stage, commenting it's the only unlocked door. Heading up there, easily finding your room. It would be just as you imagined, Renny. For anyone else, this would be maybe one of the smallest rooms they've ever had to stay in. For you, it is all perfectly sized. Just a simple, humble nightstand, a small dresser and a bed, a singular window, fairly small. You could probably squeeze in and out of it if you had to, maybe taking that note down.
Yeah, but he's it's the only locked door. He's locked doors don't stop.
Taking into space, just like you said, you probably used those first moments preoccupying yourself with whittling that apple. After putting in some good work, maybe laying in that bed, just like you said, soaking in the day's activities. Would there be anything else for Renny before he falls asleep here in this small room in the upper floors of the tavern?
I'll just make sure he has a spot. I picture he curls up by his shoulder neck where his ear is.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
So yep, once he's all settled, he probably still puts dagger under the pillow, dagger under the mattress.
His use.
Moves some piece of furniture in front of the door so it makes a noise when someone tries to open it. Checks the window to make sure he could get out, and then make sure it's shut. It's
a relaxing evening.
As Renny does his typical nighttime check at almost anywhere he stays. We would look over to the central bonfire. How would Enna be going to sleep tonight? Just gonna hang out over by Dapple, by the fire until you doze off, or did you have anything particular you were trying to do?
I think she'd sleep between Dapple and Biscuit,
Smart.
And I imagine she's kind of perpendicular to the fire, so it's all hitting one length side of her body as opposed to just her head or her feet.
Smart.
But she's probably facing away from it. I guess the flame doesn't bother her too much. She has fire resistance. So she's probably closer than like most people would be.
You're probably as close as the lizards are, like Armit being a little bit further out than you guys.
Mm-hmm. Not even breaking a sweat. Ironically, it's the humidity in the Southlands that gets her.
Mm-hmm. The daytime humidity, it'll get you, man.
Mm-hmm. With the chill of night on one side and the warmth of the flames on the other. And that's probably pretty relaxing. Reminds her of sleeping in front of like the hearth at the cold house or at the house with illuminated flames.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In this comfortable moment, Enna drifting off to sleep. Not to put you on the spot too much, but just for a bit of flavor's sake, where would Enna's dreams bring her tonight?
I can't help but think that after having the visions, that's kind of where her mind goes. Like it's just a replay of the things that she saw, especially because they're so like upsetting. But maybe this time it is a little less intense than than the other times, because like you said, those were so visceral. It was like she was there.
Mm-hmm.
This time it's more like a replay of the things she's seen so far, but like at the same time that she sees herself on the island as it freezes over, like she's seeing it from her own perspective down there, and somehow with dream logic she's also seeing it happen to her from above.
Mm-hmm. You get that gnarly dream multi-camera angle on yourself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's just a replay of, you know, the goo sweeping over the village as she tries to run from it, and then also her watching in horror as she tries to run from it. And it's basically just kind of that on loop, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe there's like twistings of those phrases from those conversations, like leaking in between scenes in the darkness.
In between those horrible scenes, just like you said, those creeping words, again, almost like a chorus being sung in pain. I fear the worst outcome may prevail. My brothers and sisters, this is a folly of our own doing. They almost echo and boom in your dreamscape.
Mm.
We cut over to Renny, as after doing your nighttime check, Lucky being taken care of, feeling safe and secure enough. You'd get in the perfectly sized bed, perfectly sized blanket sort of wrapped around you with the perfect sized pillows all around you, almost nestling you in. Where would Rennie's dreams take him on this night?
I mean, honestly, I think he'd have a lot of dreams of Ulthar.
The city you spent so much time in.
Maybe like I guess if it was like dream, it'd be like him when he was like 2 or 3, and his parents kind of like giving him the apple. I don't know. I picture in his dreams like they're figures and they're there, but they're like shadowed out.
Mm-hmm. You have just enough detail to know that they're your parents, but
yeah, but he can't place it. And he just has the loose voice. It's just like, "We love you, Renny. Here you go." And he just like grabs the apple, and maybe he's like one of those like
puts it in his mouth as a halfling baby.
It's toddler-esque. He a little bite, and then he's just like, yeah. Maybe it's him being sad they're leaving, and then he cuts to his uncle like being taken, and then cuts to like the death, and then cuts to him being left by his group, and then it kind of cuts to just like him and Renny and him in the nest. It's like this little montage of just kind of like some of the sadness he feels, and then kind of merging over to like him and Lucky, and then setting out, and then maybe progresses to like him and Enna and their exploits, and like kind of finding that camaraderie. So he's never really trusted or ran with a group this long.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it just kind of transitions to that, and then some of those montages of like the fighting, cutting the snake, and then maybe just like some mundane times where it was just quiet and peaceful by the fire.
Mm-hmm.
He just had his emberwood pipe with Lucky, and it was just chill. Before maybe the very end, it was just like, on this day our power has seen its equal of power I'm making, and that's kind of what wakes him up.
Mm-hmm. And those final words, again, this strained chorus being spoken through a saddened voice. Your eyes opening, sunlight pouring into the room, even hearing some of that wildlife of the forest in full swing already. As we pan out, a new day rising here in the Southlands. I think that's where we'll end our session for today.
That was
You guys did
good.
so good. Holy shit.
So emotional.
I had to kill the web weavers.
We got that orphan ink.
That's right.